My heart's beating irregularly. I'm under the influence of having seen a play just now called Good. I didn't know what it was about. It was just at the Independent Theatre near me. It's a National Theatre Live presentation of a play that was written decades ago. And all I knew is that it had David Tennant in it. That's all I knew about it. I didn't even know the title. I learned it when I walked in. And just happened to see that there was the last showing of this, and I like theater, and I don't get out to theater much. And it's a play about Nazi Germany, and it takes the journey of an intellectual German whose best friend is a Jew, and how he's able to twist his mind from a compassionate person to a perpetrator of the Holocaust. I bet the audience in the theater with me probably had a similar experience where all they knew was it's David Tennant because he was on the poster, and it's National Theatre Live. Fun. A play to go see. During the intermission, people were talking about the play. The Nazi part hadn't gotten going yet. It was just starting to hint at it a little bit, where the character reluctantly joined the party, but it was still the lovable character that we started out with. So they were talking about the play, now that we knew what it was about. At the end of the play, the play ended with an obvious indication that this good person, this character that we love, who is good by the title of the play, was now in a position to be carrying out, and we knew he would, the worst crimes of the Holocaust. And so it was not cute anymore, because the play was very good at being visceral and walked up to the line of grotesquerie with sound, but not visuals. And so it was very well done. But by the end of the play, there was no denying anymore that what it was saying is, oh, you, the normal, regular person trying to be good, would you not do the same thing? And so the conversation after the play ended of the people around me, one of them was about immediately, was about a different movie that they want to see that I had actually seen the week before with Andrew Scott. And they started immediately talking about Andrew Scott and his career. Another conversation struck up about the play, but about a moment in the play in which it was so there's a moment in the play after the raid, where it was the most grotesque part of the play. It wasn't grotesque. It was the most walking up to the line of the gut punch of the Holocaust, which was an audio of the raids when Jews were being moved. And in the play, after the blackout and the audio, the main character's best friend, who is a Jew, walks up to him with a boys' choir behind him. And I understood anyway, that he's dead, he's been killed. And he keeps mentioning, I've been mowed down by a machine gun. And I won't repeat too many of the disturbing things that he described, but after the show, I overheard a couple talking about, wait, how is he walking up to his friend with a boys' choir? What, they didn't have like Walkman that you could just play the music on. I thought, it's, yet another conversation denying what they had seen, unable, unwilling to sit with the feeling of horror that this play presents. If you're not Jewish and you consider yourself to be a good person, and you watched this play, can you sit with this question, this feeling that it's very reasonable what happened there? So one thought I had is an inspiration to write a play about the audience walking out from such a play. And the script would be those characters. And two friends seeing the play, a Jew and a non-Jew, and speaking. And the Jew saying something like this. And the non-Jew saying something like, it's just a play. And it happened almost like 100 years ago. And it doesn't really matter, right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Right? It's just a dream. It's just a play. It doesn't matter, right? Looking for reassurance that, no, it couldn't be. It couldn't be that. I wouldn't do that. It's completely reasonable, and I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't betray my best friend if my life was in danger, if my livelihood was in danger, if everyone was afraid. I wouldn't betray you. I'm a good person. Looking for that reassurance from her friend. We live in America, after all. That couldn't happen here. Right? And then I started thinking about history. So, within the context, before I run away with history, because that's all very fun to think about, all the analysis, I've been doing global analysis like my whole life, but what's new in my applying my new lessons to this. And in the play, it's very well written. The play, good, he addresses these questions too, which of course I now am sensitive to, of what is good anyway? What is the relative? And that's not where I was going to go. Let me think. There's the question of sitting with what you feel, sitting with sensation. And some of the lessons I've been taking from Teachers like Angelo DeVillo and Josh Putnam. Those are the main guys I listen to. The non-duality conversation. The conversation of taking the moment as it is. David Tennant's character actually has this conversation with his Jewish friend, and he reasons with him, says, this is how it is. This is reality. So it's the lack of acceptance of just the reality of how people treat each other. This is just, people carrying on and being, doing the best for themselves. And that's a natural thing to do. And his Jewish friend has tears in his eyes and understands that his friend is trying to rationalize not just his inactivity, but his participation, because it's just him doing his best with his livelihood. It's all relative. And I thought of that applied to the audience members not being able to sit with the horror that this play is giving them permission to feel. Here's a good man. Put yourself into his position. I was afraid to make this public live, so I made it unlisted. That's usually how I do. And then I switch it to public in editing. And now I wish I don't know, there's a different feeling when you know you're going public. It's okay. There's that. Seeing the phenomenon of how people turn away from themselves. And I today was geared toward, I wasn't going to go to this play. It just came across. But I woke up with the intention of being present with myself. And I thought maybe I will finally take the next step, because I really have been in frozen mode for a while. And I know that there will be a next step, but for now I've allowed myself to take it very, very easy and not rush in, not dive into the work of being with my body. I've just been dabbling in it. And a lot of my time is with distraction. So today I was open to feeling more. So I walked into that place in this very open way. It reminded me of one of the visits to New York where me and my friends went to the Guggenheim, and art museums are a special place for me. And I thought, I'm going to open my heart fully to whatever meets me here, just like I was at this play. And they had an exhibit there. The theme was hands. I was like, okay. And a lot of the exhibit was truly grotesque. It didn't pull any punches at all. Some of it was mild, but some of it was very heavy, and my heart was fully open. And I stood and took it all in. And I walked out of there flabbergasted, kind of in the state I am in now. And I thought, fuck, you stupid girl, opening your heart like that to anything. What were you thinking? And for years after, I thought, that's such a juvenile, stupid thing to do. Fully open your heart to something. How stupid. Ruined my day. And now I'm walking around unable to connect to my friends because I opened my heart. And of course, there's a strength in fully feeling something and then letting it be in the past. So with this play, I could choose to do that and see how you can feel something fully And then, without ignoring it, letting it come through your body and then moving on to the next thing. So in making this video, I'm allowing, it's nice that I don't have anyone that I need to hang out with today further. I have the day to feel. And so making this, I decided to really lean into this feeling. And I'm remembering that Guggenheim trip now and thinking, that went exactly as it should have. That was part of my growth. That was part of my experience. And my sensitivity and my emotion are worthwhile. And I'm in a place in my life where I am leaning into expressing and feeling things. And it's great. So further on the topic of people, of someone allowing themselves to fully feel and face emotion, just to be where you are, it feels so simple. And by hearing the banter of the audience after the play, I saw how impossible it is for some people, impossible to let themselves feel. And the play depicted too how the impossibility of allowing yourself to feel something and then add the sprinkle of political fear for your life and livelihood, how impossible it is. And just this rationalization and buying into it's like, okay, these makeshift rules, okay, we can buy into it. And the teachers who talk about awakening, and they have, I think Angela did mention something, either he or Suzanne or someone mentioned, there's this innocent thing that we buy into when we're kids, like, oh, are these the rules of wanting something or preferences? Okay, I'll play that game. And then we forget later that it was just a makeshift rule that we like, all right, I guess they want me to agree to this. I don't actually need this. I could just live and experience. And so the innocent buying into rationalization and then having it then be your life raft from having to feel something horrible. Even in a safe environment like this, like watching a play about something that happened almost 100 years ago. Even in this safe environment in America, in Fort Collins, Colorado, that people can't allow themselves to feel the horror of being human, of what we're capable of under the right conditions. And I thought of myself and thoughts I've had about being a Jew in the world. And you don't usually say that. You say, oh, I'm Jewish. But oftentimes when you use that word as a noun, it is within the context of threat. And of course, labeling each other in that way, it's dangerous in general. Because a label puts you in a category with which then you can, how do we deal with this category of things? Whereas if you have an attribute, it's one of many attributes. When I first, what I called, woke up from deferring to others and starting to really just trust life and trust myself, I started speaking differently. I wasn't worried about the future anymore. And questions like, what would you do if, or aren't you worried about this? They didn't make sense to me anymore. And they still don't. And I had a friend who is very different. She plans ahead, she forges her way, and she has goals, and she builds things towards them. And at the time, she and I spoke like 2 to 3 times a day. And there was a question that she asked me, and she said, "Aren't you worried about, there's all this scare stuff out there of like, what are you going to do when the American economy fails? Or like, what are you going to do if..." And so she posed that question to me, like, what would you do if the resources weren't there for you and Cheyenne, or whatever? Or it was something like that. And I told her I would do my best. And if the horror of death or hunger or pain come to me and Cheyenne, I imagine I would do my best. I would hold her and say, no matter what, Mommy's here. It's going to be okay. There's a movie called Melancholia about, spoiler alert, where a planet, at the end of the movie, a planet crashes into Earth and obliterates life. And it's the journey of a woman who foresees this, and it's this courage. She forces her sister and her nephew, her sister most of all, to face this truth. Her sister says, "Can't we just drink some poison and not face this truth?" And she says, "No, we're going to be right there through all of it, through this experience." And that's how I felt, and that's how I feel. And that's very easy to say in this very, very comfortable place where I live right now. Very comfortable place. But walking out from that play, I walked out a Jew from that play. And those people walked out being not Jews from that play. Keenly aware. I was in a there was a little Jewish hangout that I hung out at, this like decades ago. And a rabbi was joyously talking about everything Jews have been through. And he said, "You're always reminded of your Jewishness. God always reminds us, So many Jews in Germany weren't practicing Jews. They didn't look like Jews or act like Jews. But they were factually Jews. That's your race on your documentation." This was all simultaneously going on in Russia too. And he joyously pointed out, he's like, "God will always remind you. Anti-Semitism is a blessing." He was speaking about all these tragedies as blessings and saying it's a blessing of God is reminding you. You can't escape your truth. And that's a digression. That's not the point of what I'm trying to say, but it reminds me of that. I thought, what an interesting time. So to kind of comment on current history. So there's a small rise in anti-Semitism in America right now because of the war in Israel and Palestine. And I have a mezuzah on my door. I finally put it up after years. Is that okay? During the Trump hype in rising up to 2020, my then husband was hyping more and more about Trump. The turning point when I realized he really is nuts was when he was telling me he was disappointed that I didn't vote for him. And I thought, oh, wow, he's not playing along. He's serious. Because up to that point, it felt like maybe he's playing along because he was trying to bridge the gap of communication between the right and the left. Anyway. And I thought, where am I going to draw the line? We have an American flag waving in front of our house. Okay. And I thought I would draw the line at a Trump sign in our yard. I think he knew not to go there, and so he didn't suggest it. And I thought, Mezuzah on my door and a Trump sign in my yard. No. There are these reminders. So this war and the ever so small rise in anti-Semitism, I'm so sheltered in Fort Collins, which I'm very grateful for. And it's coinciding a little bit with that more and more Holocaust survivors are aging out of being alive. When I was in the 90s, when I was in school, one guest speaker every year, a couple of years, was invariably a Holocaust survivor. And there's this thing of like, oh, it's important to remember this thing. And it's interesting that once you drop the memory of something, you are then ripe for the repeating of history. The moment you forget history is when you repeat it. So we're aging out of remembering the Holocaust, and denying the Holocaust more and more is a thing. From what I hear, but it can more and more easily be a thing, the more that Holocaust survivors age out of life and of telling their story. It's not comfortable. The Holocaust was so uncomfortable because it was such a gut punch. And the Russians, of all people, were the ones who discovered and shared with the world their findings. The Russians are the very people who were so very accused. It was other countries on the Russian border too, but Russia being the largest and the most powerful of them, for exterminating Jews with pogroms and all this at the turn of the last century. And they were the ones who discovered the Holocaust, and they were the horrified soldiers who shared those images with the world. And then the world, the West, the white West, was horrified. I say that because I know that there's a sensitivity there of like, well, genocide has been going on all over the world in non-white parts of the world. So why is, I've heard that. So now there was no turning your back on it. Why do I point out that it's the Russians of all people? Because seeing the horror of which you are capable so clearly in the mirror, standing right there in front of the mirror, that's why the Holocaust was so uncomfortable. Nobody liked Jews, and nobody likes them still. And we don't like to talk about it. I realized one of the movies that I really liked when I was a kid, and I recently found it on DVD again, was While You Were Sleeping. Just, a rom-com. And there's a character in that movie named Saul. I completely didn't pick up on his function when I was a kid, but I watched it again recently because I found this DVD. I was like, oh, let's watch this Widow Sandra Bullock movie. And I saw that the function of this character named Saul, that the name Saul is a sanitized version of a Jew in a Gentile movie. See, we're friends with them. We don't hate Jews. Jews, where this country is built on Judeo-Christian values, right? We like Jews. Jews are great. Nobody likes Jews. Jews are outsiders. You don't want what's foreign. You want what's comfortable, what's yours. So being a Jew, you're always an outsider, no matter what anybody says. Nobody really wants you around. And the people who are most open to you are people who find a home amongst outsiders. And I feel most at home amongst outsiders. And I seem white to people until you have a campaign against Jews, and then suddenly I'm not white anymore. Being Jewish is a strange predicament because that you can pass for not Jewish depending on the atmosphere. It's a strange, it breeds self-loathing because you could maybe not be Jewish, right? And I come from a line of self-loathing Jews. There are some Jews who found a way to be proud. My family's not that way. So I thought, what would that look like? I have a special needs daughter who's Jewish, and I'm Jewish. What would that atmosphere look like if this country turned now that we're aging out of remembering the Holocaust, aging out of remembering history and liable to repeat it within the next half century? I keep my daughter's middle name off of paperwork very intentionally because her middle name is very Jewish. And she's named, that family name is my great-grandmother's name. Is that right? Yes. And anything that can register my kid as special needs or Jewish, I'm not crazy diligent about it, but here and there, like special needs being special needs in Colorado. I think it's a state thing that you get free transportation to schools. And so it was just always a thing that she gets to ride the bus to school. That's what we're doing. And then I think it was 2021. So it was after the hype of COVID. It was after people went back to school after COVID stopped being a thing. And they had been keeping lists of like pencil on paper lists to make sure of tracking, COVID tracking, so that if someone gets sick, you can track back, kind of CDC style investigation of origins of the disease. And then the following year, they came out with a chip where you chip in. You scan a chip getting on the bus. And I thought, they didn't even rationalize it as for reasons of COVID. They didn't even try that. They just, it's just so that we can get on the bus faster. And I was like, we're within walking distance of school and I'm okay without the convenience. I'll drive her to school or we'll walk to school. It'd be nice. We'll bike to school. But I'm not signing her up for now being in a registry as riding a special needs bus. So there are things that I'm constantly aware of because political atmosphere right now, there's this big campaign toward acceptance of special needs, neurodivergent, blah, blah, blah. We accept everyone and everything. But politics turn, and Jews know that better than anyone in the West. When I say the West, I mean like the historic West, like from the Russian border on, even from the Urals on, from Europe through to North America. The Northwest of the world. So how would I fare in a worse political environment? We would do our best. I know that my very fortunate current circumstances are temporary and they're liable to end at the drop of a hat when it comes to politics or resources or, global warming. And that's okay. And I accept the sitting with the fear and the idea of things being out of my control. What I know is that I'm doing my best for my daughter right now and my best for myself. And I'm allowing today for this feeling. And I can feel afraid, and I know that there's a lot of stuff that lives in my gut. There's a lot of stuff that we turn away that goes there to live and to cause back problems and cancer and horror that we don't face. And today's the day to feel those things, to give more space to that. And every Sunday is a full day that I have where I have no work and no Cheyenne. And so Sundays are better dedicated. Interesting that it's, the day of God for so many people, so it can be the day of connection for me. And so today I can, this play came along, just happened to be there, popped into my day. I had not planned to see this play, and I didn't know what it was about when I walked in. And walking out, and halfway through it, I was like, oh, okay, I opened the door to this. I'm in. And during the play, the uncomfortable squirming, I just spread out into my seat and let it come through me. All these uncomfortable feelings, feel them, let them spread in my whole body. And not be afraid of, I know that this kind of thing can lock you up in fear. This could happen now. All these feelings about current politics and history and how it turns. Just to let that be, to let that feeling be here without buying into the fear and the thoughts and politics and anger and those people who aren't Jews and they do country. Why don't people feel things? Because they don't. And it's okay. As in the play, the main character says this. This is reality. This is how this works. And no play and no literature and no video log and no smart expression historically, the most palatable and intelligent expression of getting people to wake up doesn't work. Because when people are manipulated into fearing for their life and livelihood, their behavior changes and there's no, the good and the bad, it dissipates, it disappears. There's no such thing. There's just people doing their best for themselves and for their families. That's it. And just as the main character's Jewish friend couldn't really fault him for not helping him, being too cowardly to help him, I wouldn't fault others. I could maybe in the moment, but in this view, in this, what's closer to truth is that there's nothing to fault. History works this way because this is how we work, this is how we're wired. And I happen to be in this position in the world. That's my... There was something else I was watching where someone was saying, I know that I'm just a note in a symphony. But it's that thing of, this is my, the note in this symphony that this is my resonance in this story, in this happening. And so to a certain degree, the main character is right. This is how it goes. So a play like that, you could say that it is an instrument to alert people, just like dystopian novels are instruments to alert people. 1984 was a renowned book, but war is being perpetrated the same way that it was in that book. And people don't recognize it. Everyone read the book. It got popular in 2020, and still people don't recognize it. Because when you get the masses chanting in the same direction, this is just how things work. And that's okay. The wisest thing that I can say is, that's okay. And as time goes on and as history moves and things move, who I am in those moments will have the reactions that she will have. And ultimately, I'm not. It's interesting to notice that I'm not afraid, that I can see that I'm okay with keeping on going and doing my best for myself and my family. I happened across a video yesterday or today. There was a woman who was yet another kind of question and answer, or just hang out with a spiritual teacher. And the woman said, I thought I was searching for truth. And I ask myself this question of like that spiritual leaders or spiritual speakers will ask, like, what do you truly want? Get in, really ask yourself, what do you want? What are you aiming for? And I'd forgotten that the answer was, I want to fully live. And this is something that this woman said, and she reminded me that that was my answer. Because in these recent things that I've been listening to, there's this like, do you want contentment and happiness, or do you want truth? And I'd forgotten that those aren't the only two answers. I was like, wait, which one am I? Is it this? And then I saw that video. I was like, oh yeah, this is what I was saying when I walked out of my marriage over a year ago. I'm tired of, tired or not tired, I'm choosing to, what I want is to become authentic enough to experience everything there is to life. And I saw that I was hiding from love most of all. So about a year ago, like around that time area, I was thinking about, I do want to become someone who can fall in love and someone who can experience a healthy love relationship, because that's such a part of life and it's not something I've experienced. And it's something that I have sabotaged and actively like made it a point not to experience on a certain level. And I protected myself from it by locking myself into a marriage that was a lie from the very beginning. And I thought, I do want to become the kind of person who can allow for love, true love. And what is that? And to see it. Because that's the stuff of life. But of course, the search is not for love. It's for life in its most authentic expression. And to not miss out on it, since I'm here. If you're on the roller coaster, might as well throw your hands up. Like, why not? I'm here. Why not? So I'm looking forward to expressing more, feeling more, stripping away fear and protection of feeling more and distraction. Right now, I'm walking up to the barrier of getting tired of my own distractions, and I understand their function. And soon I'll be ready to stop protecting myself from feeling so much. Because right now I'm dabbling in it, but I can't lie about, like, if I stop distracting too soon, then I'll lash back. I know how I work. I'm looking forward to feeling more and maturing. Right now, I'm completely immature when it comes to my spirituality, my emotional development. my social development. I really am. And I know that. And I'm looking forward to it's a long when teachers talk about awakening, they say, time is an illusion, and awakening is not a goal in the it's not in the future. It's available to you right now. But something that seems to be the case. I guess this is my mind making sense of things. That we are still there is conditioning there, and there is. So the thing of karma is to clear that and to work through conditioning. And distraction is taking in more junk than I then have to detox out. So the less junk I take in, the more I can focus on like the detox. It's kind of like a loan with interest. Like the less interest you accrue, the more you can pay down the principal. So, but there is interest on trauma and emotion and whatever it is that we have to work through. The interest is the distraction that we layer on top. And paying down the principal is feeling into quieting everything and allowing for emotion to, or for sensation to penetrate what's already there. I'm walking up to the boundary of transition from paying down the interest, like more and more distraction, and whittling that away and getting more into time spent on unwinding and unpacking the nervous system from its state of I feel like I should split this into 2 videos because this is a completely different topic, but I probably won't. We'll see. This is just the core of where I'm at right now. I'm in a place where I'm, damn it. I keep distracting myself and doing little funny asides. And I think I'll return to what I was talking about, but my mind just is grasping at that distraction. I'm looking forward to facing authenticity more, putting down not just distraction, but judgment. And I noticed recently some of the work that it's going to be very hard work because it's at the core of my resistance to vulnerability is judgment. And I've been placing it on myself, and I've done a pretty good job of clearing some of that, separating out judgment of myself as not my voice, but imposed voices, and kind of accepting myself more as I am and being enough in this moment, and body stuff and behavior stuff. But I still do notice judgment of others is very, very present. I noticed it in like a very tangible way during the last open mic that I did, where I may have shared about this, where I was judging the performers, and then of course judging myself and saying, see how I'm also not exactly on pitch. I'm also just so mediocre. And the point of an open mic, if you're doing it right, is to accept everything that gets up on that stage and to celebrate. Just someone having gotten up there is a celebration, is worthy of nothing but celebration. Judgment in my heart is a way of separation, a way of safety, a way of sorting the world. If I have a judgment on it, if I put it in a category, that means I get to define myself by that. Something is defined. Defined equals safe. And I can stay safe from exposure and vulnerability with my judgment. So that's something to notice and to work on because I do it. It's something that between me and my mother, it was seen for the longest time as the core of honesty, of like, this is the truth. If someone sees something that can be judged negatively, that's truth. And it almost put me at ease. It was a bonding, like one of the ways that my parents bonded with me was to give me negative criticism in the most gut-punching, merciless way. Because it was like, I'm being honest. And that was love. That was contact, real contact. And so that's interesting to unpack this live in the moment. That love was the worst kind of pain, of being pointed out as invalid in what I'm doing. But at least they're being honest. And so I can take comfort in knowing that there's nothing behind, a smile. And so for the longest time, if someone seemed like they liked me, I didn't trust them because I thought, they're not being honest with me. And if someone didn't like me, this happened in school a lot where kids would like pretend to like me, but then be mean to me. I was like, oh. And that's just teenage junk. And of course, a lot of my mom's stuff is leftover teenage junk because she had a similar experience of insecurity. And she's still, it's interesting to talk to her now. She was a Jew in Russia and an immigrant in America. So was I, but I was a child and I feel more at home here than she does. So that's always been her experience, being unliked or awkward wherever she was. And so she put all that on me, all that stuff. It was just a projection. And up until pretty recently, I internalized all of it. I'm digressing. So putting down judgment. I'm not putting it down. The trouble is I can feel that I can't just be like, well, I should stop doing that. I should just be nice and just celebrate people as they are. From what I feel, I have to lean into this judgment and sit in it and look it in the face, look right in the mirror, accept it and love it for the insecure child that it is and for the safety that it's trying to provide, and thank it and let it go by letting it move through me all the way instead of creating more stories around it. Oh, it's okay. It's just me being insecure. I have to feel it without buying into it and actually believing it. But letting that sensation wash through me and accept it and let it live and then let it go. And I don't get to the letting go until I let it truly live here. And that's not going to be a short process. It's going to take a while. And then I can let go of judgment. And I feel like after I let that move through me, more creativity can come through in a way There were videos that I've watched where there were more question and answer, and there was an artist who came on, or a writer, who said, I can't. There are a couple of people. Anyway, the theme that I'm touching on is one artist said, I can't bring myself to write anything, but I'm not worried about it, because even the moments that I've had where I thought maybe I should write something, it came from a place of lacking. Should. And it wasn't completely authentic, so I'm okay with not producing anything right now. So I feel like for me too, it's not a matter of disciplining it. I should sit down and write something or play something. It's not time yet, because there are things that are still that need to move through me, and I need to give them space to live. Because if I'm not authentic in my expression, then whatever art comes out of that, it's okay not to force it out. Because once I can, once my voice is more authentic and coming from a place after clearing out and letting live the parts of me that I right now judge as the worst parts of me, that will be a different kind of expression, a more real expression. So to recap this video, I feel like I need a transition out. Today is a day of feeling things and letting them live in me and move through me, and welcoming whatever hits without buying into it. It's a day of remembering fearless experience, and trusting life and myself, and not fearing any kind of future, but finding the most authentic and true expression now, and sensation now, and allowing for things now. It's a day of accepting human nature and my nature, and allowing those things to live fully, breathe fully, and to not, and to, I was going to say to not judge them, but to, whether they're judged or not, give them their the full space of my experience and my body to move and to exist, no matter how subjectively horrible they might be. To allow feeling without action, without buying into it. So I'm going to see what that actually looks like.